New York time, and welcome back for a half hour together about how you change the world, about how people have this potential of changing the world. And probably for most of you, have already did a good part of that. So, just a little bit of a housekeeping first, as I always say. First, please subscribe to YouTube. Our YouTube channel is still very shy, getting more subscribers. So please do that. It's the um, André Politzer YouTube channel, or the Change Your World YouTube channel, and all it does and all it takes is a few seconds for you to just subscribe. This way, we gain more footprint, we have more resources to give you content, and have incredible guests like we're going to have next week. Today, the guest is me, and I just am happy to welcome everybody. There is a chat, as you can see, you can use to make comments or to ask any questions. Unfortunately, I cannot answer back to the chat. They still did not develop that feature, nor on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, where you should see us, and especially also YouTube. So there is no way I can reply to you. But you can also go to the website, www.andrepolitzer.com, and there is all kind of opportunities there to communicate with me, and an email as well. So that's, I think, all I can say for the housekeeping side. The theme of today, as things develop around us, especially in the US now, with layoffs, is freedom. The theme is freedom, and it's about freedom because that's what's missing in the mind of most of the people that I coach. There is a lot of tears. There is a lot of disarray, a lot of disillusion, a lot of disappointments. Not to say that some people get very disgusted by the situation that they're in. They all rationalize, of course. It's totally human to rationalize. I've been laid off. I got the pink slip. Why me? I was right in the middle of something very important right now, or someone in my team, a high performer, has been laid off while I was on vacation, or while I was away. I just got a message from someone saying, you know what? The CEO decided to lay off now about 2,000 or 3,000 people in the company. And right now, don't worry too much. Your group is not affected. And a few minutes later, I'm telling you the true story. Not a few minutes, maybe not a few minutes, but maybe a few hours later, then there's another message contradicting the first one saying, no, yes, you're going to have some of your people affected by this layoff situation. Let me share with you, it's always about experience, right? So if it's my experience, I've been laid off probably 2 times in my career in the US, as I have this privilege of having a multicultural career. And I also have been laid off, by the way, in France, which is a much more rare instance because of multiple reasons. But over here, laying off people is something that is it's a traditional cycle. And yes, it is a cycle. And if you really look backwards, and I wrote a few postings about that because this is something that I really have in my heart to share so that I can pass to you a message about this, and hopefully have a little bit of an influence on you, that you are going to start owning your destiny, because that's what we work on with my clients in coaching. When this happens to them or some people in their team, or the proximity of anything, or even a relative in the family, it's taken as a tragedy. And yes, it is a challenge, but it could be avoided to be a tragedy, right? We could avoid the tragic aspect of a layoff situation. Why? Because if you start getting into the mindset of being in control of your destiny, then things are completely different. I'm going to try to explain this and try to contrast it with another concept, which is loyalty. How ironical it is when we talk about loyalty of the employee or the employer, right? It's a win-win situation. You've got people who have been working in the company for over 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, that's totally normal to hear that. But there is also many of them, and many of you, middle management, any kind of levels, where being laid off is something that can be predicted somehow, or at least we can prepare for it. And that's part of our job. We need to be prepared for being laid off at any point in time. And what is the preparation about it? Well, it's to be marketable. It's to be totally strong, that you have no issue at all of self-confidence and confidence about your competency, that you are performing, that everybody's happy and you got good feedback. You got incredible reviews, right? And all of these credentials are there for you because they're going to be used at one point. Anybody you work with, you work for, they all can stay in the circle that you represent. You are yourself, represent yourself like an island, like I don't say a silo. An island is in the fact that in the aspect of having autonomy, and that you are building a career, you're building your competencies, your skills. You're all in charge. You go to your training, you go to your graduations, you go to your schools, you develop your network. It's all yours. It's all yours. Interestingly enough, we think that our company is going to be very loyal to us and that they're going to recognize all of that. And they do, because in this organizational chart, for example, where you are, your boss and your skip manager and all of those people above you, they have an appreciation for what you do. And they're really sincere about this appreciation. And they're promoting you and they give you bonuses and all of those good things that happen in one aspect of the cycle when things are good, when they are really rolling. One aspect of the American culture, which is really something cute and in the same time worrisome, is that there is a cycle. And the cycle is really like 3 to 5 years, because that's what I've been through, 3 decades of that. So I can tell from experience, and I've been looking very, very closely to all my colleagues and to all the corporations, to all the industries. I could also see in the service industry, in manufacturing industry, in the auto industry, looking carefully at what's going on in terms of this cycle. And it is definitely a cycle. Now, there is another thing too. When the cycle is about being very high in a good economy, where the news really are good news, and when things are favorable, then even when we start a new business and there is a good amount of cash flow coming in from venture capitalists or whatever, or there is really good cash flow in the company, then everything's good, good, shiny, and sun shines, and we have lunch boxes during our meetings, and the company pays for this and pays for that. Executives fly business class, all those different fringe benefits, beautiful. And one day, boom, finished. We cut it off because things are starting to show that we spend too much money, and this is not really something reasonable, and this and that. Is it really the way you are living your life yourself? Is it the way that you are managing your money yourself? Well, you see, that very point I'm making right now about how a company is not responsible sometimes about how to spend the money. Also, a government can also be completely irresponsible about that. We're printing money in the US all the time, and it hasn't been this way ever, like it is today. So there is inflation and all of those kind of situations. And we don't know exactly what drives it and why and all of that. It's fine. I'm not, in fact, I try to really keep myself away from the news. But there is something unreasonable. There's something childish. There's something irresponsible. And because of that, we need to separate ourselves from this. We just are, part of the system. We're very loyal to everything that we do and to the people that we work for and with. But there is a boundary. I need to protect myself and my family. I need to be very conscious and very, very responsible for what I decide to do with my life. And therefore, the work where I go, the team that I manage, I can love all of that, but I have not attached to it. There is no attachment to it. We have to cut the cord, because the fact is, when you laid off, they have cut the cord, and you can just have left alone. Can you imagine this incredible picture? I've never seen this before, of a good employee, and myself, I was, in fact, I think, in that situation once, where you are told that you have to leave. You have to pack everything. Sometimes you cannot even have the time to do that. And someone from security is taking you outside the building, and everything is now completely disconnected. You are disabled. That, excuse me, uh, how do you say this? Deactivated. That's, I think, the expression. You're deactivated. What means deactivated? That means you don't see your emails anymore. You don't receive anything. You do not have access to your phone if there is a phone for you. All the things that, is about your business address and your business phone, and all the contacts and communication are, boom, abruptly interrupted, disrupted, finished, closed, dead. That's what your employee is capable of doing. And it's not that they are mean or they are really, against you. It's just that that's their security standards. That's their policy. And if you're laid off, you're deactivated. Now, what do you do about this? What is your strategy about all of this? You need to be a little bit selfish here. You need to think, and it's not to be self-centered. Again, you think about you, your family, and what's important to you. You go to work to make a living, hopefully to enjoy what you do, have fun, enjoy the people that you are working with. That's fantastic. And when things roll, we want we want to this, we want this to be stable. We want to feel a sense of security, of stability. But the reality is that's not the case until you feel free of creating all that you need to do and create, right, to be autonomous. In other words, when this happens and the anchor is detached from you, you have another one and a spare one, like you have for your car, a spare tire, and anything that you do in life, and a spare battery, because you need to be always ready with a plan B or with a backup. And this is part of the job. In fact, you should be encouraged to do that by your employer. You should be, in fact, trained. People should always be ready to refer you. And you should do, and this is, in fact, the sad part of this, spend time in marketing yourself constantly. That was a shock I had when I moved from France, to see people always looking for the next job. I never understood that because, you're coming from Europe, there's another sense of, of loyalty, but also a sense of stability over there. More protection to the employees and all of that. But what I'm trying to say to you is, when there is a layoff situation on a large number of people, and it's a decision made and irreversible, then sometimes, by the way, you can be deactivated, you receive your pink slip, and then you get a call 2 days later or a week later that now they want you back. That's also possible. Or you can be reemployed, and they assure you that you can be. So there is all kind of things that they also can do, give you a severance package. They can do all kind of things, of course, to help you in the transition. But many people that I coach these days do not have any chance for transition. It's an abrupt situation. It's a shock. It's a tragedy. A lot of tears, a lot of fears, and probably so much disarray and panic that it's going to cost months until they're going to stabilize and find the next position. There was nothing that was prepared. It was just a big surprise, a big shock, and you need to kind of be first going through this traumatizing period in your life until you find the next position. So please, I beg you, do not let that happen to you. That's the number one situation. Why do I correlate this to the word freedom? Why do we always speak, in fact, about this autonomy and this awareness that at the end of the day, we make our own choices? I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great opportunity for us. If we embrace this responsibility, if we really do, and we are completely connected to ourselves, our goals, we always reflect about, am I at the right place at the right time in my life? Am I really on purpose? I am really reaching my objectives. Can I clarify those objectives to myself? Eventually have a coach or a partner to work on always keeping this as crystal clear as possible, and being really satisfied about not only what you're achieving, but about your milestones and where you are now at this stage of your life. It's wonderful. You have been, again, promoted. There's all kind of good things happening. Great feedback from the people that work for you. Great feedback from the boss and from everybody above you. All of this is great and and beautiful. And the music is very, very sweet to hear. But at one point, if all of this is stops from one day to the next, let's not be taken by it with panic, with shocks, and with surprise, but let's just be prepared. So that applies to many, many other things. And gosh, when I am in this conversation and have to, sadly, first have to go through this first session on the topic or two sessions, having to listen to many, many cries and many things about unfairness and about trying to rationalize this when there is not much rationale to talk about. My words are not to give comfort. My words are not, as a coach to give advice, because a coach is not there to give an advice. It's to try to just make that person realize that this ownership, this responsibility is theirs. That now it's maybe a lesson to learn that we're not going to let that happen again without being prepared, without having a plan B, without having already a clear picture of what is the next company I want to work for, or maybe a stage in my life where I want to own my business, whatever it is, or be a consultant, or be teaching, or changing, making some kind of change at one point in this career path. And the journey remains extremely stable. So we have another 13 minutes, and I just want to, first of all, again, invite you to chat here, to send comments, to send questions. It's good when it's a little bit interactive. But I will go back to this topic many, many times over. I think that I'll get some guests who will testify that they've been prepared and how they did it and how they used good methodology to be always up to par with themselves, with their career, with their skills, and knowing exactly how they stand in the market and connect with people, constantly network with everybody. Remember, you have people that you studied with in college. You have people that you worked with 10 years ago, 3 years ago. Remember that it's good to maintain those connections, those relationships, as it is good for them to maintain it with you. So it's a very interesting thing. It's a kind of social skill to maintain contact, to learn about what people do and their moves. And then at one point, because you know someone, you're going to hire that person, knowing that that person becomes available, or that person is going to let you know. But there's definitely different circles that you can build constantly. Excuse me. And by doing this constant work, right, you're always building yourself and you're building this autonomy. And I would tell you that you can measure how well you are autonomous. Make an assessment regularly. In fact, that's one of the assessments I'm going to put on my website very soon, where I'm going to offer people to answer a few questions and see how autonomous they are. A little bit of a self-assessment and tell you that you are 60%, 40% autonomous. But it will make you aware of what is in fact making you dependent on different things. Dependent on, on your boss, on your team, dependent on a project manager, dependent on a supplier, dependent on a plumber that is not coming to your house and you're just going nuts and you don't have a second spare plumber to come because the first one is not coming. I'll tell you another thing that puzzles me, has been puzzling me all the time. I have a little bit of things about doctors, right? You know that. So, and when doctors feel that they are entitled to make you wait for a long time in the waiting room, I'm going personally completely nuts. Why this doctor is not respecting my time? Why do I have to show up at a certain time and stay there for 1 or 2 or 3 hours, right? Why? They can maybe, there's in fact the way different technologies that they can use, sending you texting or whatever, let you do things while you're waiting, and just do some shopping or anything. It's not fair, right? So this dependence on your doctor, this dependence on his kind of bad habit and disrespect of you that is going to make you wait for an hour or two or three. The worst case I remember was when this doctor went on an emergency and nobody was told, and we were there waiting for many, many hours. They were waiting. After two, I went to the desk and asked what's going on, and she said, "Well, he left." What is he left? Yeah, he left on an emergency, and you don't tell us, the patients waiting here in the waiting room, that we are wasting our time here. Unbelievable. So this is why. And then I realized when I left the practice that, my gosh, it's my fault because I made myself dependent on this doctor and on this system that he created, where I completely disagree with his way of treating me and treating the patients in general. And then, no, I'm not going to do that. Or I change doctor, or I tell that doctor not to do this with me. But there is nevertheless a certain provision of time. I will always allow a doctor to make me wait until I will not allow it anymore. So you create your boundaries. But I feel autonomous when I do that. I feel free when I do that. That's what I'm trying to share with you. The same with your job, the same with everything that can be coming your way. And there is dependence. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to help much, but they are maybe more meaningful, dependent on a baby waiting for you, because the baby is totally dependent on you. So dependence is really, I think, something to analyze much deeper. And I hope that if you are still listening to me and watching this, you walk away from this half hour with me with something that will make you think. Maybe handle a journal and write down all the different things every day you find to be dependent on, and try to start cutting off those dependencies. Gain your freedom, gain your autonomy, because you deserve it. You're entitled to it. It's amazingly true. Now, we live still, I think, in a free country where there is free choice, and I chose that country for that reason. But the day I would be, in fact, told that I am not free anymore, or I would be checked all over the place, I would probably try to move. Unfortunately, I come, like many people like me, from families that have been harassed in their countries and had to flee, had to leave. And when yeah, this is something, an asset that you have, your home being confiscated by the government because it's a communist regime or something like that. That's how they do it. I heard today that they acquire those big companies, of those billionaires in China, and and now the guy is just traveling and fleeing from China and doesn't owns only 8% of his company. I'm talking about Mr. Ma, right? So this is not normal, but it is what happens. So he was dependent on the government, or he had this threat possibly coming to him, and that he didn't see maybe clearly enough, or he knew that one day it will happen. But when I hear from my parents and grandparents that this happened to them, maybe there is something in my DNA that makes me much more maybe alert to this kind of situation. I want my freedom. If I work hard, I want the reward for my work. I want to be able to enjoy it. And this is why I think independence, individual independence, freedom of choice is an awareness we need to carry on with and be happy with. So, conclusion. I took the layoff situation as our case study, that every single day I don't have one session without someone have been being laid off. This is what happened. And of course, it brings me back to the days when it happened to me, and to the cycles that I'm mentioning, because there is cycles, and that because of a culture also, which I'm, again, have a high respect for. It's a culture of a young nation that is always mobile, can move to a city to another so easily, like in Europe, versus that in Europe where people are really not willing to move. There is a lot of mobility. There is a lot of youth yet in that culture that makes it, in fact, so fragile or vulnerable. And your job, believe it or not, as much as you think you own it so much and you deserve it so much, you've been promoted, you are in charge of many, many people. You're leading a whole profit center. And all of a sudden, even you have that position because you're an employee, even with shares of the company, whatever, you are going to be fired for no reason that has to do with you. It's totally independent of you, and you have not been made yourself independent from it. So they were independent from you to the extent that they fired you. They, they deactivated you. I think this is such a horrible expression, but it's so true. All these things that keep you busy every day, your emails, your texting, your WhatsApp, that are all the company tools to communicate with your clients, with your employees, with everybody, all of a sudden, boom, shut off. You have no access to it anymore. What do you do about that? That's another conversation we can have. But it's the same. You need to be prepared. All right. So I think that if you want to move forward, to go further into this conversation with me, you know where to find me. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to see you, even for that 20, 30 minutes, free call consultation when I'm evaluating a potential new client. We talk about the situation they're in, what is the plan for the coaching journey, and what is the objective we want to reach. Here, in this particular instance, it's a journey of awareness and building a solid foundation. Sometimes I'm looking for my word. A solid foundation for building this independence I'm referring to. And I think that the day you enjoy that, the day you have completely internalized this freedom that you really own and you deserve, you are going to be much happier than you are when you are laid off, when you are deactivated, and when all of a sudden you find yourself in a very fragile and threatened situation. We own our own stability, and I will finish on this. It's an amazing thing, because I'm thinking about this all the time. Write your own contract, please. Write your employment contract, because the employment contract is with yourself. This is who, in fact, employs you, yourself. This is a lifetime contract. Isn't that stable? It's a lifetime contract. Whatever you write in the terms, one of the chapter of your contract, one of the paragraph will have to do with this. I want to create a provision. I want to be ready and prepared that when I'm working for a company, for an employer, for a boss, and I'm laid off, I am deactivated, I have a plan B, I am completely ready to move forward with a big smile, and the sun is going to shine for me, like it shines for many, many other people. There is nothing like, a desert in this kind of situation or a wall. You can totally design this for yourself and be ready for the next move. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. Let me tell you that next week, we're going to have here a very prestigious guest in the person of Madeleine Blanchard, who is the CEO and owner of the Blanchard companies. Ken Blanchard, as you know, is a training and a coaching company that has been around for a long, long time and is all over the world. And she will be my guest next week, 5:30, Wednesday, the 17th, here. And for your time zone, please calculate it properly and be here. Do not forget next Wednesday, and I will post this probably Sunday with more details. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Bye.